When you know how you will be questioned, you will be able to prepare better. You would know when to memorize something, when to analyze something, and more importantly, what to leave to intuition and guesswork. In this video, we'll go through the different types of questions that you will encounter while you're sitting for AI 102 exam. We will then use these insights to prepare for our exam way better than what we would do without this insight. For now, let's begin with the understanding of these different types of questions. The first type of question is what I refer to as a definition question. These questions are all about what is something and where to find it. For example, this could come in as a simple direct question saying, if you were to build a project of a chat application and that chat application needs to use Gen AI, what kind of a project would you create? Is it an Azure AI Services project, Azure Foundry project, so on and so forth? Now, sometimes it may also come in the form of a drag and drop where you have multiple questions within the same question. Some other times you may find a couple of questions which are related to the same topic, and you will be presented that as a one single question. For instance, the task will be provided to you as, say, extracting data from an invoice. And then the question will be, what service and model would you use to do that? That means you'll have to understand the definition of what a service is. You'll have to understand what service allows you to do that, in this case, the document intelligence service. And the second part of the question would be which model? And the answer would be something around the invoice model. It's a pre-built model. So there are two definition questions packaged as one. More about this as we go through our syllabus in the next video. The second type of question that you will encounter is what I refer to as arrangement or rearrangement. The idea is to test your understanding of which step comes first and which comes after. Taking the same example as earlier, which is extracting data from invoice, you may be presented with 6 steps that you may have to rearrange into 4 steps that are needed to achieve that. For example, you have to have the basic understanding of how to go about doing that. Say you will need to have a subscription to begin with, then you will need a resource group, then you will need a resource, in which case this is a document intelligence service, and then you'll need a pre-built model within that. You need to know which comes first and which comes second. Now remember, it may not be exhaustive, so you're not required to know every single step along the way, but at the very minimum, you need to understand what comes first and what comes second. The next type of question that you'll encounter is what I refer to as a comparison question. For example, you might be tested on things like, say, AI vision versus AI custom vision. A question that tries to challenge your understanding of conversational language understanding versus AI language. When to use what, when not to use what. That is really the objective of this question, and tests your understanding of those nuances. Now, the next kind of question is what I refer to as an optimization question. Now, this question most likely won't come up as a question by itself, but will be added as a suffix to an existing question. For example, let's say a question presents you a task of retraining an existing vision model, where you're training the model, say, for example, to figure out the identification of rotten fruits from ripe fruits. And you will be asked a question saying, hey, now you have new set of information or new set of images. How are you going to retrain the model? Now, you may have a few options in it, and you may find more than one option being the right option. But then they bring you another component that says, ensure that while you're doing this, or while you're proposing the service, the complexity of the model should be as low as possible, and the cost of the model or the whole solution, so to speak, is low. Now, you will begin to figure out that as they're challenging you and putting constraints around you about the cost of doing things, you may want to trade off a bit of quality, but ensure that the cost is low. Sometimes they just don't talk about cost, and they'll simply say, ensure that your model is absolutely accurate and takes it to a whole new level, and they don't talk about the cost. So you're kind of questioned around your understanding of the compute power, the cost of running it in terms of the dollars. As we get into future videos, I will walk you through how to think about these perspectives or questions as you look at the coursework that is presented to you. Now, the other question that we come across is what Microsoft calls it hot area question. Now, a hot area question is a sort of an exhibit, a visual that is presented to you on the screen. You have to look at it and then answer a bunch of questions, or in some cases, one question. For example, you may be presented with a front end of a chat application, and then subsequently you'll be asked questions around whether or not follow-up prompts were used in that chat application, or was it just a chit-chat? I believe that the real reason why this question comes up is to test your ability or test your experience in hands-on delivery of these projects, so that when you're presented with a use case of the front end, you can point to where things are and where to find them. And lastly, the next type of questions are what are called as case study questions. Remember, these case study questions are different from the earlier sections, not just in terms of how they're asked, but also in terms of how you can respond to them. These questions, once you answer them, there is no going back. You can't review them and come and correct them again. All of the other question types that we've seen are called standalone questions by Microsoft, and you will see how you can click on review button or review checkbox and then come to them later on to figure out if you have to change the response. If you have a change of mind, if you've understood things a little bit better, or you were mistakenly pointing out, whatever the reason, you may want to come back to those questions at a later point, and those questions will allow you to do that. But the case study questions are different. Once you give an answer, that's about it. You can't get back to it. Now that we understood these question types, we are now better equipped to look at the course syllabus and be able to understand the content from a whole new perspective of passing the exam. Thank you for listening to this video, and have a great day.